Okay. Hello, everyone, and welcome to your workshop on VirtualBox. Okay. So today we will learn about how to set up a VirtualBox, and see exactly how we go through the process, address any questions that you might have, make sure that we set the entire VirtualBox using Ubuntu distro. Okay, and we'll maybe discuss a few things regarding VirtualBox as well. Okay, so let's go forward. So what are the things? So basically, what is VirtualBox? So as it says here, it's a powerful x86 AMD 64 virtualization product for enterprise as well as home use. It's got a lot of features, include what do you say, for a whole lot of stuff over there. Now, what are you able to do with VirtualBox? So, what it allows you to do is create a virtual machine on your, what do you say, on your laptop, on your servers, wherever it might be. And for example, you have like a huge server and you want to make use of it. You want to use some other OS on it as such. You can always go ahead and create a virtual machine using VirtualBox. It uses an underlying, what do you say? It uses an underlying software which allows this particular process to take place. So it allows you to create this virtual machine. So it chunks out parts of your memory, your hard disk, your GPU, all of these things, and gives it to you as an individual virtual machine. Now, your laptop, it acts as a host system. Okay, so right now on my system, what I have got is a Mac OS running. Now, on top of this, I will be able to sorry, just a moment. Yeah, on top of this, I will be able to add any other system as such. I could probably use, say, Windows, I could use Linux, I could use Solaris, any particular system as such. Okay, and then you can go ahead and use these particular machines, and we'll probably discover that as we go along. So first thing first, what you need to do is go ahead and use this particular link. So you have got this virtualbox.org. Go here. Make sure you download the latest version of VirtualBox, install it on your system. Once it is installed, it will ask for a couple of things to be done, majorly with respect to, what do you say, setting up the network, setting up a couple of, a couple of changes on your system. Allow for that to happen. And once that is done, you are pretty much set with it. Okay. And then this is so once you double click on the VirtualBox icon, what will happen is you will come to this particular screen as such. Just a moment. Yeah. So you will come to this particular screen. And once you come to this particular screen, all you need to do is click on this. Now, before we go ahead with any of this, I just have to give you a disclaimer. I am using the Ubuntu distro, okay, which means to say that you would need to download the Ubuntu ISO, that is the OS which you will be using. Download the Ubuntu ISO from the Ubuntu website or wherever you could find. I use the x64 distro. I've used 20.04. I'll show you later. I've used the server version. Now, so that being said, what I do here is I'll just say I want the name of my system, new virtual machine to be Ubuntu. Okay, and it'll probably identify it if you give a synonymous name as such. If not, you would have to change this type as such, depending on what particular distro you're using. So since I'm using Ubuntu, I can use Ubuntu. If you're using Gentoo, use Gentoo, Fedora, and so on. Okay, once you do that, continue. Then it asks for the memory allocation, that is the RAM allocation. So RAM allocation depends upon your particular distro as such. In case you want to make sure that what do you say, you've got enough RAM for your particular you know particular operating system. First of all, make sure that you've got enough RAM on your laptop or your wherever you're setting it up. The second thing is make sure you find out how much is the minimum memory that particular OS requires, and then set it accordingly. Okay, so over here, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to simply maybe increase it to 2048, which is 2 GB of RAM. Continue. Then you come to a, what do you say, this particular thing for the hard disk. So hard disk, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select 10 GB worth of hard disk, or maybe increase it later if I need it. So 10 GB, 20 GB, however you want to use it as a. Create a virtual hard disk now. That's the option which I'm going to use in this particular case. Okay, so you have like use an existing virtual hard disk. So in case you have an external mount, of the hard disk, of a virtual hard disk, and you have not, what do you say, you've probably separated it out from your existing virtual machine instance, you've deleted that particular thing, and you still have a virtual hard disk, you can connect to it. Okay, or you cannot, you can leave it as it is, but typically go with this version, creating a new system. Created. So what it says is virtual hard disk, virtual machine disk, or virtual box disk image as such. Please choose the type of file you would like the new virtual hard disk to use as such. So this is what I'm going to use, the VDI. Okay, then it says, what do you say, either use dynamically allocated or fixed size. So I usually use dynamically allocated, so that it is able to, what do you say, expand and contract accordingly. So it will go all the way from 0 all the way to 10 GB, depending on how much of hard disk space you've allocated. If you set it to a fixed size, then it will always be at that particular size. Now, name of the new virtual hard disk is Ubuntu, and there you have it. So it just creates an empty shell for you at this particular point. So I'm not talking in terms of Linux, but just an empty box for you. Nothing is loaded on that yet. So there comes the next part. You select settings over here. Okay, you'll see a lot of information out here. So when you have a lot of information out here, you need to just check what exactly you need. So you can still make changes to this. Okay. So what I'm going to do is go to storage. If you see this, there are two particular things. One is the SATA, the other one is the IDE. So on the IDE, SATA is basically your hard disk as such. The IDE is where you have your, what do you say, CD, DVD, or whatever it's like. For us, it is the choose virtual optical disk file, which is the ISO. This one is the one, Ubuntu 2004. Okay, I'm going to open this up. Okay, it's going to select that. Wait, let's see if it's selected it. Yeah, Ubuntu ISO. So it selected it, and then okay. Okay, now it's loaded it up in the what do you say, mount as such. So once that is done, sorry, it's not complete yet. We have one more setting to be done. So here you have the network. In the network, you've got enable network adapter, so and so. Okay, and then you've got adapter 2. You need to be able to what do you say, allow for this as well. So enable network adapter, so 2 adapters. So basically in the earlier versions, the adapters which correspond to this adapter 1 and adapter 2 would be ETH0 and ETH1. That is Ethernet adapter 0 and Ethernet adapter 1 in your Ubuntu machine as such. So once you do that, go here, you've got bridged adapter. Okay. So what it does is it uses your bridge adapter from your local machine as such, which means from my Mac, it is using the bridged adapter. It says cable connected, promiscuous mode, allow all. Okay. Or, it depends on whether you want your machines to talk to each other, you want your what do you say, machine to talk to your local host. In my case, I want to allow it to talk to everything as such. So either you can make it an isolated system or the one which is available everywhere. So in this, it is available pretty much everywhere. Okay, and there you start it. So once that starts, let's go. You'll see that a couple of things will come up. Just a second. So it's still coming up here. So let's wait. So it's doing some checks. So once this is done, we will move on to the next part. Just wait for it. Okay, now. So it's come to the console. So in this particular case, I want English. Okay, so all you can do is use your arrow button and your space button and your enter button. So in this particular case, I'm using this identify keyboard if you want, but typically it's US English. So it says, in this particular case, we have enabled two different Ethernet adapters, that is ENP0S3 and P0S8, because it used to be ETH0, ETH1. It has been changed in the current Ubuntu as such. Okay, so once that is done, enter. Okay, configure a guided storage layout. So use the entire storage. What I've done is I've selected use the entire storage, set up this disk as an LVM group. Don't bother about it yet. So if you need to encrypt it, you need to allow this to happen as well. Okay. Okay. So if you want to encrypt it, then it will ask for a passphrase. So right now I don't need it. Keep it simple. So it's going to use the entire disk as such in this case. Okay, file system, over here. So it asks for a couple of things. So it is using, what do you say, almost all of the disk as the new logical volume for the mount point slash, and then slash boot is where your boot up information comes into picture. So right now slash is what is they say useful to us. Boot is the boot up as such, initial boot up. We'll just hit done. Selecting continue below will begin the installation process and result in loss of data, so and so. So are you sure? Yeah, continue. Okay, so here it'll ask for a couple more things. Okay, so your name, I just specified Ubuntu. Your server's name, when it talks to other computers, Ubuntu, that's all right. I'm just going to give just default username, password sort of, system sort of, so you can change it accordingly. Okay. Then over here, you'll see you can choose to install OpenSSH server package to enable secure remote access to your server. And in my case, in our case, by the way, make sure that you install this. Okay. So when you hit the space key, it will install it. The reason you want this OpenSSH server is so that you are able to talk from an external terminal to your machine as such. So I'll show you how exactly to SSH to this machine. Okay, SSH basically means secure shell. Import SSH identity, not necessary right now, and done. Here you have a couple of additional things which you can do. It'll ask for what else you want to install. So you've got Docker, you've got Mosquito, etcd. So there's a whole lot of stuff which you can go ahead and do, but I'm not interested in either of them. I can install it myself if I want to. So I'll just done. Okay, so it started installing like a couple of things over here. So let's wait. It'll take a little bit of time to complete the installation. So let's wait on that. So once this entire session is done, I'll take up any questions that you might have. So keep your questions up and ready. Yeah. Also, you have to remember this, that if you're enabling additional stuff on your machine, make sure you are not additional, even basic stuff on your virtual machine. Make sure you're connected to the internet so that it is able to fetch various packages from the internet, download it, install it as such. Otherwise, lots of stuff will not really go through. Okay, now it says installation complete. Okay, and at this point, I can just say, reboot. So back in the day, what used to happen was this would take a whole lot more time. So right now, that's not the case. Just reboot. So once it reboots, okay, just a moment. So it says failed mount. So what we need to do is this, settings. It's empty. Power off. Let's power off and let's power on and see what happens here. Yeah. So and the entire boot up begins again with everything being loaded. Okay, so you see, you already get all of this, loaded as such. Okay, so let me do one thing. It's still loading a couple more things. Finish off. Ubuntu. Let's log in and see what happens. So then you have your brand new virtual machine. Okay. Now, what exactly can I do with this virtual machine? So, you see usage of this particular is at 42.3%. Make sure you increase the amount of sites in case you use it for anything significant. Now, the first thing, let's go through a couple of commands which would be useful to us. Now, I want to be able to log into this machine. So what I'm going to do is I want to find the, details regarding the IP as such. Okay, since I had made this as a promiscuous connection and I, in the networks, I made sure that I use a bridge adapter. I'll do this if config. Okay. Interestingly, it did not install a couple of tools. So it says if the command is not working, install this particular thing. So to apt install net tools. Sudo basically allows you to install in the super user mode. Remember that. Okay. Now let's do if config and see what happens. Okay. It tells me these are the particular things which we have. Now the one which is important to us is ENP0S8. Okay, this one is important to us. which tells that it is 192, 168, 178, 28. Okay, so let's see if we can actually log into that machine. SSH. So since I installed, what do you say, Open SSH server on this, I should be able to log into this. So SSH Ubuntu @ because that's my machine, so that I can talk to it. 192, 168, 178, and 28. So this is my terminal. Remember, this is my terminal. So for people using their, what do you say, your Windows machines, you will not have a terminal. So in that particular case, you can use something known as putty. Okay, I will talk about it a little bit later. Okay, for now, consider that you have Mac or Linux. So it says, you want to establish the authenticity. Let's do this. So I said yes. Okay, it does a particular, what do you say, check on your fingerprint, computer's fingerprint. And then, so I have logged into my machine through the terminal. So we have a much more beautiful, what do you say, screen as such to work with. Okay. Now we can go ahead and try out various commands. If config. So let's try to, yeah. So basically what I tend to do is I tend to update my, what do you say, OS every time I use it. So apt, so I use the previous style of apt. So apt get install and apt get update. And that will start with the update process of this. Still trying, yeah. So that's stuck. It says a couple of things have been installed, so that's all good. Okay, so from that perspective, I think we have understood, the basic installation of our, what do you say, VirtualBox, creating a VM, installing an Ubuntu distro on our, what do you say, VirtualBox, and being able to access it through SSH. Now, a simple one for you guys. So since you guys need Python for your work, you just see. And if I try Python, it says it's not there. We don't have Python. Okay. So what we are going to do is, it says Python not found. Did you mean by Python 3 and so and so? So let's do Python 3 and see if it is specific. So it says Python 3 is installed. So it says Python 3 so and so. Yeah, let's go with Python 3. And you see it is already installed. So typically, Ubuntu distros usually come along with one or the other, what do you say, Python installation available, either Python 2 or Python 3. The latest one, the 2020, the latest version, that is the Ubuntu 20 version, Ubuntu 20.04 comes with Python 3. So you can go ahead and do that. So Control Z. Okay, and that shows that you are able to do a whole lot more with just a virtual machine. So I have an underlying Mac OS, but now I also have Ubuntu running on my system, where I can do a whole lot of things over here as such. Okay, just a moment, guys.